Perry, who's a professor at Howard University. He joins us in the studio. Ravi, great to have you with us. If you could just start by breaking down this New York Times report for us and what that actually means from a legal standpoint, that this whistleblower actually went to a House Intelligence Committee aide prior to discussing it through the proper channels.
Well, despite the fact that the president labeled it today in his press conference, right, raving the New York Times article around as a scam, there is not actually much legal issue here for Representative Schiff. The fact that the whistleblower would contact the chairman of the committee in which the complaint, if it were actually to be followed through with, would eventually be there, to only discuss the outlines of the actual pending complaint without knowing any details of who it was or things like that, that's perfectly fine.
So you're saying that he likely didn't go into a great amount of detail and depth.
Well, the article itself says that. Yeah, the article itself says that. Yeah.
So I'm curious to get your reaction. I'm not sure if you listened to the extensive press conference that the president had earlier, but it seemed that we saw a new level of frustration coming from the president. What did you make of that?
Well, we seem to be saying that every day now, right? A new level of frustration, a new low. I mean, he did call, this episode in this New York Times article a scam, right? He has suggested that the whistleblower should be tried for treason, which is punishable by death in this country. These are the kinds of statements that we expect from an autocratic leader, not from a democratically elected president of the United States. And Donald Trump this time has his back against the wall because it's no longer just an idea of his concerns or his issues that people may have had about him in 2016 election. That was all looking backward. We're looking forward now. 2020 is not even here yet. It's 2019. And the reason why we're having this discussion is because he decided to talk with a foreign leader and ask for help from that foreign leader in a future election. And that is illegal.
As my colleague pointed out, actually, though, it would seem that what he said and the performance that he gave in that press conference might very well play well with his base. And we know that he had his own way of framing the Mueller report. Do you think that the White House's campaign and their strategy, if they have one, for sort of turning this around amid all of the evidence that we've seen from the complaint and from the phone call and all of that, is that working for them? And how does that play out with the public?
Well, it's working from the standpoint that the 30 or so % of Americans that have been Trumpers and been supportive of him ever since he indicated that he's going to run for president, those people are fixed supporters of him. They are not going to change. These are not people who are wavering. They're not independents, right? They're not the suburban white women voters that the Republican Party is trying to ensure that they have for 2020, right? And so that block of voters is going to stay with Donald Trump regardless of what he does. Literally, remember he said that these are the kinds of supporters that he thought that if he were to shoot someone right in the street on Fifth Avenue in New York, that they would still be with him. And he's right about that. The problem, though, is that support alone is not going to get him reelected. He has to make inroads in the Midwest. He has to make inroads in the rural communities where there's a large African-American population as well. And he has to make inroads with Latinos. And it's very difficult for him to do that when, of course, his policies tend to be against all those groups.
Ravi Perry, great to have you with us. Appreciate your insight. Thanks
Great to be
that.
here.